everybody, Renee Frith here, Director of Horticulture and Sustainable Landscapes at Bernheim Arboretum and Research Forest. It's fall, y'all, and for me, that means it's the best time to plant. Woody and perennial plants are on the agenda here for us in the months of late September, October, November, and even into the 1st of December. So we want to kind of beat that harsh winter freeze, and so that when that happens, that's the time that we stop planting. So we're in front of the visitor center, and if you remember this, it was a hodgepodge of different plants and weeds. So we wanted to take an opportunity, capture water that's running and sheeting off of the asphalt road and collect it. So we regraded this area so that water will stay in this bed, and then we had to add plants. So in that design process, we took a page out of Piet Oudolph's book. And if anybody knows Piet Oudolph and anybody knows me, I have a big professional crush on him. He has inspired me in the native plant design world for many years now. And his whole design process is not about sharp lines. It's about textures, bloom times, and he is a firm believer that any landscape has 4 seasons, and yes, even brown is a color in a landscape that should be celebrated. And this goes part and parcel with our mission here at Bernheim, and we want to provide habitat. And one way to do that is to have native perennials that not only have pollinator interest in the spring and summer months, but that have hibernation value with hollow stems in the winter, so that our native bees have a home to rest. So with this in mind, we put together a plant palette of native perennials, some native shrubs, and I won't go into the whole list of plants, but I would like to say that most of them are plugs. And why are plugs so much easier? Well, they're smaller, they're better to manage. Anyone can plant a plug because they weigh a lot less than a 1 or 2 gallon. They require less water to get established. And if anyone knows, if it's fall and it's a native plant that's going to go dormant, it's all about the roots. So why is planting in fall so important for us? Well, we want good roots because good roots produce good shoots. Planting in spring and summer is tricky and a waste of water because spring and summer, it's all about the shoots. It's growing, it's in bloom, and so you're going to need to add more water for establishment to keep those shoots and leaves hydrated. So when you plant in fall, the shoots are going dormant, the roots have a chance to establish, and then when spring comes back around, the roots that are established can push forth energy into the shoots, and voila, you've got a really strong, healthy plant that you didn't have to put a lot of labor in to establish. So for us, we're cultivating roots. One thing that I would like to point out about planting plugs is that when you get these, they come in a tray like this, and sometimes they're a little hard to come out. And people get frustrated because the top sometimes will just break off because, you know, we're busy and we want to rush. So don't rush. Give it a little jiggle and pull it straight out. Look at all those lush roots. This is what you want to see. Some nice, white, fleshy, fibrous roots. And when you go to plant this, we don't want to put it straight in. All right? Nature doesn't grow in plastic. The ground has, it's made of soil. There are lots of pore space in the soil where those roots can spread out and grow. So if we plant this straight in the soil, those roots are going to want to stay and keep growing in this weird oblong rectangular shaped pattern. So we want them to spread out. And what we'll do, don't worry, I didn't hurt it. I heard it yell a little bit, but it's okay. And so we want to separate the roots, and you can do this with your hands. become one with the plant. And then when you go to plant it, you want to spread those roots out, dig a hole, put the soil around it, and voila. It's set for success. Add a little water to get it established, and you should be good to go. We have the benefit in fall of a really regular rain pattern. And so usually one good soaking or watering in will do the trick. But keep in mind that you need to monitor the rainfall level each week. If you're not getting more than an inch of water a week, you may want to add a little extra. And so how do you know if you're getting 1 inch of water a week? Well, there's a really simple trick. This won't cost you anything, except for, maybe a cat food can. So those circular cans about 1 inch high. That's perfect. Get a couple of those, set them around your yard, and let it rain. And once they fill up in a week, if you got 1 inch of water, then you got 1 inch of rain. And you can do this to test your irrigation system too, if you have one, but we don't have one here at Bernheim. How many plugs you need can sometimes be a little tricky. One way to do this is think about them in their mature form. So when you're doing your design, gather a plant list of plants that you really like. And it's not just plants that you like aesthetically, it's plants that you like in the requirements of the space. So here within our visitor center planting bed, we have conditions of some partial shade due to elements like trees and signs in this landscape bed. We also have graded this specifically to capture water. So we have areas that are very wet and areas that are higher elevation, so they'll dry out faster. So we want to fit the right plant to the right place. And in doing so, I've laid out a section of Iris Versicolor Purple Flame. So this will over time get purple foliage with a nice purple flower. It's going to be just gorgeous. But how did I know how to lay them out in this particular spacing? So I want to lay out this plant for the maturity of the plant, not for the current size, because if we wanted to fill this space with the current size, I could have doubled or tripled my plant quantity, but I don't need to. So I spaced these out 18 to 20 inches on center. And so what on center is, here is one plant, and I go 18 to 20 inches from the center of this plant to the center of the next plant. So I've been doing this for a little bit, and I've over time, you'll as you do this repeatedly, you'll get a good feel for what 18 inches is, or 24 inches, or even 36 inches. And you can just look up, whether it's on the tag or on the internet, you can Google the mature plant size, and that'll give you a good idea of your spacing quantity. A little math goes a long way, and so you can measure the size of your planting area and do some plant spacing quantity math and get the total number of plants. And it's just that simple. So don't overbuy, plant for maturity, and you'll be successful. Establishment and long-term care is always a concern with any planting. And so one way to think about this in a long-term capacity is get native plants. If you are in an area with high deer pressure, source plants that are deer resistant. While no plant is ever not going to be nibbled by a deer, try to gravitate toward plants that deer don't particularly like. And one way to do this is to give your neighbors plants that the deers do like. I'm just kidding. So not every plant will make it. All right. So with any planting, you're going to have a failure rate, and that's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes certain plants just don't make it. Out of every planting project, you can expect a 3 to 5% failure rate. So if you're planting smaller plugs, that's an easy, inexpensive replacement. And sometimes you won't even need to do it if the plugs fill in nicely. So when do you want to assess that? And I always tell people, if you plant in the fall like we're doing here, during the planting time to winter, the plants are sleeping. Spring wakes up, they start creeping out of their slumber, and then by summer and definitely by next spring, they're leaping to success. And so within that first year of planting, that's the time that you want to do your initial assessment. What survived, what didn't, do I want to make any changes? And sometimes you could choose the best species that you think would work in a location, especially wet locations. And the plant will say, nah, don't like it here. I always have trouble with cardinal flower and siting it in the perfect ideal conditions. But other people have tremendous success with cardinal flower. So it all depends on where you site it and if the plant ends up truly being happy. And this is just learn by doing, trial by error, and that's okay. If this would not be possible, we wouldn't be able to put in near as many plugs as we're putting in today, which is, by the way, about 1,500 plugs. That's 1,500. Wouldn't be able to do this without the help of volunteers, and we are just so grateful. We have many planting projects going on this fall, and we will next fall and the falls after that. So if you want to get in on the action, definitely reach out to bernheim.org/volunteer. If you at any time have any questions about fall planting or what to plant or what could be the best, reach out to nature@bernheim.org and we'll be happy to return answers to your questions. Thank you.